Thank you for watching this video. I'm Lisa with Lisa Boone Designs, and I want to show you the makeover of this cabinet. The first thing you want to do is clean it really well, and because it had a slick surface, I went ahead and I did a light sanding and I cleaned it again. Now I was really excited to purchase a critter sprayer, and I wanted to spray Sweet Pickens Milk Paint on here, and let me just tell you, it was an epic fail. After 2 days of trying different air compressors and trying the critter, I finally had to go back to the good old brush, and I used the brush, the Klingon brush, and I used the paint that I had mixed up for the sprayer. I actually did 2 different batches, one thinner because I thought maybe it was too thick, but anyway, turns out my air compressor is not compatible with spraying. So this is what it looked like after I had brushed it. It did have a lot of chunks in it that had developed. The best thing that you can do when you're mixing paint is to use an immersion blender and get it really, really thin for the sprayer. But after 2 coats, this is what it looked like, and I was pretty pleased with the overall coverage. I am using the color Lantern. So I pulled out my new IOD sunflower stamps, and you always want to condition your stamps when you get them just by using a fine sanding sponge and going in both directions, and that just gives the stamp some tooth when you first get it for your ink or for your paint, and it just makes for easy application. I like to cut my big stamps up and leave it on the backing so that this way I don't have to have a thin mount or anything else. I just use the actual backing that it comes with as my grip. So I load up my ink pad with IOD ink in white, and look at that, luscious. I love these stamps. I'm using peony, I'm using the chrysanthemum and the sunflower in an open design, and I'm just applying it. You're not pushing, you don't want to push it because it could smudge. You just want to lightly go ahead and cover over the area with your finger, and you get a really awesome impression. Now you could re-stamp, but I just clean them in between with a baby wipe. And so I just did a random pattern, and this is what it looks like on this side, and I'll show you what it looks like on the other side. Don't you just love it? I love these new stamps. They are awesome. You can find them on my website, lisaboonedesigns.com. The link is in the description. Next, I go ahead and I sand and distress some of the edges, and just to reveal some of the wood, and if there were still a little few chunks, I went ahead and took care of it. Next, I'm using Amazing Casting Resin. It's the 10-minute one. Now let me tell you, it was hot in Kentucky when I was doing this, and they set up way before 10 minutes. You want to do equal parts of A and B. I did go back and I went ahead and marked each cup A and B because you don't want to mix that, and you want to put A first, get it all out, and then B, and then you want to stir, and as you stir, it becomes white, and then you keep stirring and it becomes clear, and that's when you know that you can pour in your resin. And you just want to make sure that you get it all over. I use my stick to help it along and get it into all of the grooves and all of the edges, because I really want nice sharp edges. The sunflower actually took the full amount, so it's a big casting, it's a huge mold, and you definitely need another full cup of each for the second half. There's so much details. Wait, look, watch. Isn't that awesome? I love to watch the resin harden up, and as soon as it's white, you can release it, and while it's still warm, you can actually bend it. But because I had to go ahead and get my second batch going, I just left it in there, and because I wasn't going to bend it around, I was just placing it on the sides. So I just went ahead and did the same exact thing, and watch, right before our eyes, it turns. I love it. And again, it was so much faster because I was outside. The next batch that I did inside definitely took 10 minutes. And this is what it looks like when it's solid. molds are super easy to release. They just kind of come off very easily. And now I want you to notice all of the details of these molds. These molds are good for food and candy, sugar arts, of course clay, but look at the details. There's so much that you can do. You can make ice cubes with it for a party. You can do all kinds of things. You can do wax melts even, soap, so many things. So I went ahead and I used my lantern by Sweet Pickens Milk Paint, and I went ahead and covered all of my sunflowers and leaves up. I ended up having to make another batch because I needed more. I used my Type Bond Quick and Thick, and then anything that seeped out, I used a wet Q-tip to clean it up. And I kept having to go back and clean it up. I probably put too much glue, but it's because it was hot outside as well. Then all of a sudden, rain just started coming down from nowhere. And my daughter had a stressful day, and she took a minute to just let off some steam and jump on the trampoline and get soaking wet because it was a curly girl hair day and she was sopping wet. So once I brought it inside, I realized that it definitely got splattered. Even though we tried to cover it up, it didn't work. We moved it inside and I was kind of disappointed. So I went ahead and I took a little bit more milk paint and I covered up the places that I could. And then once it was dry, I took out my Sweet Pickens top coat and I put a little bit of the black paint in there. Usually when you seal black paint, it streaks a little bit. So I thought, I do that with DIY paint, so I thought I could do it with the milk paint, but I did get white streaks everywhere. Sweet Pickens top coat is a lot thicker and it's a lot milkier, and I'm gonna play around with it and see if I can't figure out exactly how to do it. But I did use it also as my decoupage medium, and I love the way that it worked. It worked great. And so you want to just make sure you get an even application and you take it one step at a time. I have so many videos on decoupage, so if you're interested in it, you can go ahead to my playlist and see all of the different projects that I've done right here on YouTube and also on Facebook. And so I just take it in sections. I take my saran wrap and I work out all of the wrinkles, and I just make sure that I get it good adhered to my piece. And I really did like Sweet Pickens top coat as a decoupage medium. And once I get it all applied, I still go back and I work out any wrinkles. Now here, I went ahead and I took a sanding disc, and I don't know what grit it was, but it was fine, and I worked on the edges. And when you do that, it actually, you almost can't even feel, you can see it, but you can't feel the transition between the paper and your piece. So I did that all around all of the edges, and I actually decoupaged several places on this piece. And then I took some Sweet Pickens lantern and I went over it, and then I used my finger to smudge it into the paint, into the paper. And I did that all around. And it just helps to transition it all together. And it looked kind of weird, that one stamp, so I just covered it up. But I love the paper that I use. It's Summer Bird by Roycycled. It can also be found on my website. Now I decided at the last minute to go ahead and decoupage this insert on the doors. And so what I do is I create like a dry fit, and I use my nails to create a crease. So this way I know where to cut. And I didn't want to cut with my scissors, so I do what I always do. I pulled out an artist brush, I wet it, and I did a torn edge. And everywhere where it's wet, it's going to tear like butter. These tissue papers are 20 by 30, 18 pound, and they work so great, and they just melt into your piece, and I just love using them. I have a lot of different papers, and they're so much fun for furniture and also for small home decor items. But I always, when I do an insert, like to go a little bit bigger, and I cut it once it's dry with a box blade knife. And once it's dry, I go over it and I top coat it as well. Now, Sweet Pickens top coat has a matte finish, so you won't see any sheen at all. Then I went ahead and after I decoupaged, I applied more of the IOD molds, and I love the way that it looked. I put a few on there and it just wasn't enough for the piece, and I really wanted to put it with the paper, and it just makes it extra special, just something different. And I clear waxed it, and then I went ahead and I used a little bit of DIY Paint's white wax. I didn't have the oil wax with me. I had some at the store, so I just used what I had, and then I just rubbed it with a lint-free cloth and rubbed some off, and I think that it looks really cool. Then I took some gilding wax. Now, had I known that my golden rule from DIY Paint had just arrived, I would have used it, but it was at the store and I didn't know the box had arrived, so I used the gilding wax that I had in the house, and I just love it just transformed it. It just came to life as soon as I added the gold. I love the way that it turned out, and it is available, so if you're interested in it, please let me know. But I love the stamps and the molds and the decoupage paper, and it's just so special. Thank you guys for watching this. I hope you learned something. I hope you were inspired. Feel free to contact me. Comment below if you liked this video.